A very warm welcome to this talk. Now, the British government is still withholding data on vaccine deaths, and I'm going to be giving the evidence for that. Now, I have had thousands, I don't want to exaggerate, I'm sure it's thousands, certainly many hundreds of emails from viewers, from messages saying that my loved one, my relative, my mother, my father, my son, my daughter got sick after receiving the COVID vaccines, and some of them became no longer with us after receiving the COVID vaccine. Sorry about having to jump around YouTube requirements. They became no longer alive after the vaccine. We need to know the truth on this. We don't want another blood scandal that takes 20 or 30 years to come up. Now, there is some interesting signs of encouragement. This is from the Daily Telegraph. Government withholds data that may link COVID jabs to excess deaths. That's the link there. Unfortunately, it is paywalled, but that is the article there. This is one of the more reputable newspapers in the United Kingdom. It's the one I tend to read most days. And if this is what they're saying, then we have to listen to it. Public health watchdog has been accused of cover-up, refusing to publish data that could link COVID vaccines with excess deaths. And who are they talking about? The public health watchdog? Well, I assume they're talking about the UK Health Security Agency. In fact, I'm pretty sure they are. They argued that release of data would lead to distress of bereaved relatives if the link was discovered. So the reason we're not telling you why your mum died is because it might upset you. That appears to be what they're saying. More information in a minute. Risked managing the well-being and mental health of bereaved. So we're not telling you why your loved one died because it might affect your mental health. And aren't we a kind state looking after you so your mental health is preserved? Of the families and friends of the people who died. Now, the literary among you will recognise this poem. Thomas Gray, 1742. Apparently this was him going back to school after a gap of many years on a distant prospect of Eton College. He says this: "Unhappiness too swiftly flies. Thought would destroy their paradise. No more, where ignorance is bliss. 'Tis folly to be wise." Folly to be wise. I can see where Thomas Gray is coming from, but I disagree with him 100%. We need to know. So let's quote another modern poet. I want it all, I want it all, I want it all, and I want it now. That was James, someone from Queen, wasn't it? I can't remember his name now. The one who plays the guitar. Excuse me. Anyway, we want this data. We want this data. We don't want to live in a world where the government looks after our mental health and well-being and saves us from distress, if that means we're not living in the real world. We want to be wise. Letter to the UK Health and Security Agency and Department of Health. Now, this letter came from MPs and peers. Now, this letter appears to be private. It's not in the parliamentary records. It doesn't seem to be published, but it looks like the Telegraph has had sight of it. So we're going by what the Telegraph says, even though I can't give you a reference for the letter. So we're going by what the newspaper says about it. So this letter to the UK Health Security Agency, our health watchdog as they call it, and the Department of Health, from MPs and peers, members of the House of Lords. Potentially critical data had been released to pharmaceutical companies, but not to the public domain. So it looks like this data has been released to pharmaceutical companies. People that are in existence to make money. Nothing wrong with that. Business needs to make money. But why has the data been released to them and not to the general public? So our statisticians can analyse it. So the pharmaceutical companies have been told by these guys, by the looks of it, but us hoi polloi haven't. Might upset us. We can't cope with the truth. So what we need is dates of individual COVID vaccine doses and date of individual deaths. That's basically, they're basically only two pieces of information we need. Then we can look at the date of individual vaccine doses, see when individuals died, and correlate those two. Why won't they give us the information to do that? So it looks like the pharmaceutical industries have done that, but we're not allowed to. Data should be released on the same anonymised data, on the same anonymised bias that it was shared with the pharmaceutical groups. So the MPs are definitely saying it was shared with the pharmaceutical groups. It could be released on an anonymised basis. And there seems to be no credible reason why that should not be done immediately. Why isn't this being done immediately, according to the MPs and the peers? And I agree with them. This is information. I think we're entitled to it, don't you? I wasn't given full information and took some of these vaccines without informed consent, in my view. They owe us this, but they're not giving it to us. Us for Them, a very good group in the UK, requested UK Health Security Agency release data, freedom of information. UK Health and Security refused. Information Commissioner ruled in the UK Health Security Agency's favour. Now, I didn't even know we had an Information Commissioner. This is the site here, Information Commissioner, and I've put the link in there so you can see it, and it names who the Information Commissioner is. And the Information Commissioner came out in support of the UK Health Security Agency. No idea what their relationship is, but that's what he came out as, which is disappointing. I think the Information Commissioner was wrong. Anyway, that's what he did. Check it out for yourself. That's the link. So why won't they release it? Publishing data could lead to misinformation. So UK Health Security Agency, publishing data could lead to misinformation. So giving accurate information can lead to misinformation. By giving you the truth, you will come to untruth. What form of irrationality is this? Anyway, that's what the article says. That would have an adverse impact on vaccine uptake. Let me think about it. I'm going to do something that might cause you to be not alive or cause you injury. But come anyway. I'm not saying that's the case. We just need to know. Yeah, if people are no longer alive with this vaccine, I guess it would have an adverse effect on vaccine uptake. mRNA. We're talking about mRNA vaccines here. I'm not getting into anything else on this video, just the mRNA vaccines. Yeah, I would have thought so. It might have an adverse effect on uptake. Risk of individuals being identified, as we'll see later, that can be circumvented completely, in my view. Now, Reform UK, a political party, is committed to a public inquiry into the excess deaths and vaccine harms. And we're expecting... No. The government that we've got at the moment in the UK is in some ways suboptimal. In fact, it's probably the worst government of my lifetime. Reform look like they're getting in next time. So we should know this in about 4 years' time. This information should be out in about 4 years' time. But of course, by that time, most of the senior executives will have retired on pensions or whatever. I don't know. The idea that there's going to be any accountability for this is a bit of a long shot, I would have thought. Anyway, let's go with what we know. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform. We knew there was concern about excess deaths, which is why we called for an inquiry. Instead, the unelected Quango UK Health Security Agency is involved in a scandalous cover-up of how and why people are dying. According to Mr. Tice, I met him once briefly, nice chap. Scandalous cover-up of how and why people are dying. Mr. Tice. This is totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And the Health Security and the Health Secretary must overrule them. Yeah, right. That's not going to happen, I don't think. But anyway, I agree. He should do. If we're not prepared to learn lessons about why people are dying, what sort of society are we? You need to put a question mark there and I'll put a bigger one. What sort of society are we? You can answer that in the comments. Ben Kingsley, us for them. This case reveals a desperation that this data should not in any form see the light of day. Why on earth not? It has preserved. It is preserved for. Sorry, can't read. It is perverse for the UK Health Security Agency to argue that this data should not be released because the public could feel distressed or angry if patterns or correlations were to be identified. Well, let's be distressed but know the truth, please. You have to ask yourself, why it is that the public are considered incapable of handling this data? Good question. It reveals a patronising mindset, which also characterised the pandemic response. Do what we say, don't ask questions. We know what's best for you. But of course, I don't think they do. I think we know what's best for us. Thank you very much. We don't know if the data would reveal any evidence of correlation, let alone causation. But we can see they are desperate to avoid having to answer that question in public. Why? Now, the reference I could find here for this is here. This is the Freedom of Information request. And there's lots of useful information on this, although, as I say, the letter is not available. Just a couple of highlights from this to point out. If we knew the age at first dose, first point, date each dose of COVID vaccine and when they were given, second point, time of death, third point. That's all we need to know. All we need to know. Now, this request is only for adults over the age of 20, and the age information can be given in the category used in the NIMS dataset to ensure anonymity. Now, I assume this is the Northern Ireland mortality study. So what it looks like is they've got a way of anonymising data. And I do know from talking to a reputable member of Parliament personally, David Davis, who assures me that data can be anonymised. But UK Health Security Agency seem to be saying that it can't. Let me know who you believe. In order to make the dates of death anonymous, please do the following. And this is, just to be clear, this is what the Freedom of Information request asked for, which has not been given. So the Freedom of Information request pointed out, not only did the Freedom of Information request ask for the information, they pointed out how it could be done anonymously. And it makes sense. It's a standard method, actually. For each data of death, add a value of the date, randomly selecting from this range -3 to +3. It will then be impossible to determine who the records relate to. Now, this is absolutely standard in research. You anonymise it and someone's got the key to the data. This is absolutely standard practice. Now, that's the end of the video, but this book here, George Orwell, 1984, he says this. Who control? He says this carries so much weight. This simple quote: "Who controls the past, controls the future." So, if you can control the past, you can control the future. And he's particularly thinking about terms of information. But who controls the present? Controls the past. Took me a while to get this, but if you control the present, you can write your own history. Any history you like, doesn't matter. George Orwell says, if all the others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became truth. Who controls the past? Ran the party slogan, controls the future. Who controls the present? Controls the past. The present can dictate the past. But of course, George Orwell was aware of the absurdity of this. Whatever was true now was true from everlasting to everlasting. There is such a thing as absolute truth. I agree with Orwell. Pretty well, most things actually. Well, yeah, pretty well everything. Certainly what's the philosophy that he's written about here. Whatever was true now was true from everlasting to everlasting. It was quite simple. All that was needed was an unending series of victories over your own memory. Reality control, they called it. Reality control, they called it. In newspeak, doublethink. Stand easy, barked the instructress. A warning, surely, by the late, great George Orwell. So there you go. Government's got the data. Quangos have got the data. Pharmaceutical companies have got the data. You and me haven't. So if one of your relatives became no longer with us after a COVID vaccine, then you are just not grown up enough to know that. Just accept that and say thank you to your government for protecting you from mental distress. Aren't they good, ladies and gentlemen? We'll stop there before we get really cross. No, I'm going to stop. Okay, thank you. Thank you for watching.